My name is Itlali, and I did my Great Films project on The Silver Linings Playbook, directed by David O. Russell and created in 2012. Narration. After catching his wife cheating on him with her coworker and beating him, bipolar Pat Solitano is placed in a psychiatric hospital and released 8 months later. Pat now begins to reinvent himself as he tries to better himself in order to win his wife back, while also living with his sport fanatic parents in Philadelphia. At a dinner party, Pat meets an old friend, Tiffany Maxwell, who is having several problems dealing with the death of her husband. Due to Pat's restraining order that his wife had placed, both agree to help one another as Pat enters a dance competition with Tiffany, and she keeps both of them in contact through letters. As they continue to spend more time together and the relationship expands, Pat and Tiffany now begin to realize their true feelings for one another. Costumes in this film was definitely a very subtle but creative way that that the director was able to reflect these characters' personalities into their wardrobe. And so we're able to see kind of how they are based off of how they dress. In Tiffany's case, her color scheme is definitely based off of black. So her almost all of her clothing that she wears in the film is black. So she wears black shirts, black pants, coats, her makeup, her eyeshadow is almost always black or gray, and also her jewelry and nails. And so I think when I think of the color black, I tend to think of when somebody's in mourning. But at the same time, when I think of black, I think of something that's mysterious or maybe alluring, and then oftentimes something or somebody that is seductive. And so I think that definitely sums up her character well because she's depicted as this woman who is in mourning, but at the same time, a lot of men find her attractive and seductive. In Pat's case, I think he wears a lot of gray tones, and the grays that he wear reflect off of kind of his state of mind and feelings. Pat tends to think that everybody around him is like kind of crazy and he's the only one that's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and I'm good and oh no, they can do whatever they want, but I'm fine. And in reality, he's not. I think the gray definitely means that he's kind of in this gray area. He's not black or white. He's both because he's just so mixed up and there's so many things going on. And then at the bottom of the screen, we can see the ending dancing scene. And so in that scene, that's after our characters have developed, um, our characters are seen wearing white. And so white definitely tends to mean hope. And so I think that sums up just how far our characters have come and all of the obstacles that they've overcome in order to. Diegetic sound is used a couple of times in this film, but I think the scene outside of the theater is definitely one of the most impactful scenes that use non-diegetic sound. Since we know that Pat is dealing with bipolar disorder, he sometimes hears things or sees things that aren't there. And so when the music starts playing kind of low, and then as it creates sort of like a crescendo of music, and we hear like the sound of the people talking to him muffling, I think that creates like a really great way in order to understand how Pat is feeling. The images that we are shown on screen as Matt kind of frantically looks around, his eyes are shifty, his breathing is kind of getting heavy as the music gets louder and louder as it's sort of consuming him. I think it adds like a really interesting effect to this scene as like everything's around him is kind of consuming him and he's kind of entering this sort of moment of panic. It allows for the audience to definitely connect with Pat and understand like, oh, well, this is what he's going through. This is what he's feeling whenever he our entire film, we can obviously tell that one of the biggest themes that came out of it was acceptance. So since the beginning of the film, Pat has always tried to sort of push away the aspect of himself of like labeling himself bipolar or kind of like acknowledging it, I suppose. He never wanted to try, his medication. He didn't want to go to his therapy sessions because he thought that he didn't need it because he was fine. And that wasn't the case at all. And so I think when he met Tiffany, that was sort of when he started to get kind of jealous of her ideas because she was all about not caring what others think and being who she is. And so through this entire film, I think Pat was able to overcome this and be able to accept himself as he started to take his medication, as he started to go to therapy sessions with his doctor, and as he started to um, practice Tiffany for their big night. And so I think the film definitely did a great job of being able to. David O. Russell was born August 20th, 1958, in Manhattan, New York. Some of the other films that he has directed are The Fighter, which was made in 2010, and American Hustle, which was made in 2013. So, one of the reasons as to why this film was critically acclaimed was the fact that his son actually attended a boarding school for children with a variety of mental health disorders and learning disabilities. So obviously, he had a lot of hands-on experience with dealing and seeing how these disabilities and disorders take a toll on people, especially at a young age. And so he was obviously able to reflect his experience into his work, this film. And so it allowed for a very interesting experience for the viewers. And so, yeah, thank you.